there are definitely 18-year-olds who can fall madly in love with an 80-year-old, and they can have a tremendously wonderful egalitarian relationship where they deeply care about each other.
How young do you think is too young for this kind of stuff?
So I think I want to be clear on a couple of things. So there's like a legal element here,
Yeah.
right? If the kink involves sex, it is illegal. And
Any
so
sort of sexual contact, I guess, right?
what?
Any sort of sexual contact
Yeah,
with a family.
yeah, and it depends upon your age of consent laws in the state. It varies
So in a
widely
state
by
where
state.
there's like an age of consent law that's 14, would
Yeah.
it be harmful for a 14-year-old or?
So I think that's going to depend upon the like mental state of the 14-year-old. But I want to start off with like it may be too young because it's illegal, right?
Right.
And so don't violate the law. That's bad. Okay, so among people that are doing this legally, I think it's going to be about what kind of mental state they're in, what the power relationship looks like between them and a partner. There's a huge difference between a 14-year-old who's engaging in kinky sex with a 20-year-old who has a lot more financial power and a lot more independence than a 14-year-old who's engaging in kinky sex with a 15-year-old. So part of it is going to be about, is there an element of coercion that's being involved there solely by the basis of their identities, right? If someone is in a financial situation in which they might be reliant on another person and are also engaging in kinky sex, that may lead to certain kinds of coercion unless that's really carefully negotiated beforehand. Likewise, I think that if they don't have a lot of experience about the physical safety that's involved in kink, that means they're definitely too young. So for example, if you don't know things about, like, if you can't point to your radial artery, you should not be, if you can't point to the radial nerve, you should not be engaging in any kind of rope play. Because you can do severe nerve damage if you're not careful and you're not communicating with your partner and you don't know what you're doing. Likewise, you should never be engaging in any kind of breath play alone.
What is breath play?
So breath play is any kind of kink activity that involves choking or constriction of air for sexual pleasure. This is how people end up dying via autoerotic asphyxiation. We do know that there's at least some teenagers that are dying every year because of it. The number is probably underreported because there are some families that are basically treating it as a suicide rather than what it actually is, which is an accident, because they view it as less embarrassing for the family. So those kinds of things, never do breath play alone. You should, if you're going to do breath play, you should have a lot of training in it. If you go to workshops, you should work with other people who know how to do that stuff safely. You should not be choking somebody in a way that is constricting their airway. If you're going to choke somebody, you should be choking them in a way that's constricting blood flow to the brain. Obviously, all of this needs to be done consensually with a tremendous amount of training and negotiation beforehand.
Do you think there's ever a situation where people feel compelled to do something, like if they're in a big group and there's kind of like mixed messages, like one is that they're in the scene and there's like attention coming to them, like especially if they're younger and they're the center of attention, and they may feel like that they're letting the other people down or losing the attention of the rest of the group
So
if they don't.
I should say a couple of things.
Okay.
One is that of every kink community I've ever spoken to in the country, all of them are strictly 18 plus.
Right.
So there's never going to be
I'm
a
saying
case where,
even among adults, because I mean there could be, I mean, I don't know, this is just like I guess it's like, but like if someone's an 18-year-old and there's an 80-year-old, I mean that's still like, to me, a bigger difference than if someone's 16 and if someone's 18.
So I think it's gonna matter what kind of relative power position that they're in, right? There are definitely 18-year-olds who can fall madly in love with an 80-year-old and they can have a tremendously wonderful egalitarian relationship where they deeply care about each other. And there are also 18 to 80-year-old relationships where one is highly financially dependent on the other person, and that creates a certain form of coercion. So it depends.